Hi, everybody. This is Amy Zawi with a special report with Barry Shaw, who has a show called The View from Israel, and he is part of the Institute for Strategic Studies. I'm having Barry on today because he is going to give us a firsthand from Israel account of what's been going on since Saturday when Hamas terrorists infiltrated communities and personal homes and have committed atrocities against civilians, families, women, and children, the elderly. Barry, thank you for coming on with us today. And we really want to hear from your perspective on the ground in Israel, what is going on and what everybody in America, Christians, Jews, everybody can be doing to help, what we should be praying about, and what we need to understand about this is far greater than what's going on in communities just in Israel, but this does affect the world.
Well, first of all, thank you, Amy, for having me on. I have been working non-stop day and night since Saturday, since 1,000 Palestinian terrorists infiltrated, or in fact invaded Israel in the south. And they went into the towns and to the villages and to the kibbutzim. And it wasn't just a straight, what we're used to with terrorists over here is they come in shooting, they kill people that they try and escape. Sometimes, of course, we've had suicide bombers as well. This time, it was so completely evil that I cannot begin to express myself to your viewers, your followers who may not have seen the videos. Since Saturday, we have had scenes on our TV screens which has made us all cry. Israel is in total shock right now. We have had, as of now, 2,000 killed, over 3,000 injured. I want to tell you, you might have an impression of what terrorists are. And I know you in America have had some distant knowledge or experience of ISIS. What we had here was a Palestinian ISIS. I don't know if your people have seen videos of the distress. I would invite you to perhaps go to my Facebook page and scroll down, because I've been giving update reports every 15 minutes, half an hour, so you have to go back a few days. But very, very briefly, so that you know the headlines that you may not have gone over there, is they've gone in the kibbutzim and they have not only tortured people, they have beheaded babies. Listen to what I'm telling you now. They have beheaded babies. They have raped the women after killing their husbands. They have been taking people hostage. We had, as it was happening on Saturday night, Friday night, actually, it was, there was a nighttime music dance festival where hundreds of young folk went. It was in an open air night music festival, not far from the Gaza border. And a gliders full of terrorists came down while they were dancing away. And they began to kill these teenagers and early 20-year-olds. And you have videos of them running away, trying to run away. We've had videos of girls, for instance, who had to pretend to be dead in order to survive. Let me tell you the numbers. At this dance festival alone, 260 teenagers and nearly 20-year-olds, boys and girls, men and girls, were killed by them. People have been taken hostage from the towns and the kibbutzim. There are scenes on TikTok and other places of seeing girls being raped, men being killed, grandmothers and young kids being dragged off as hostages. The scenes are totally unimaginable. We are facing here a war. Israel has been so shocked that we are going into Gaza to totally destroy the evil that is Hamas. This isn't a normal terrorist organization. These people are absolute animals, and I don't want to really tell your people. How does this compare to, for instance, 9/11? 9/11 was tragic. you had, was it 3,000 people killed? We've had 2,000. The population of America is what, 330 million?
At least.
We have a population of 9 million. In pro rata, you can imagine the proportion that we've got here as opposed to 9/11. Let me put it another way. Had 9/11 been this, had 9/11 been that instead of flying planes into buildings, they had gone into your towns and villages, killed thousands of people, and the rest taken hostage and flown to places like, let's say, Cuba and Venezuela, buried them underground where their facilities, weapons facilities are, as in Gaza, and tempted America, tried bombing us. This is a situation we have right now. We have young kids from the age of 5 to a grandmother aged 84, 85, who was a Holocaust survivor, now in the hands of Hamas, these animals. By the way, 7 Americans have been killed and 11 have been taken captive. So this isn't just Israel, it's part of your fight as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we're in a situation where we have, if we want a better peace, we have to totally eradicate Hamas. Now, I suspect that what's going to happen is the emphasis of the media to show some sort of sympathy for dead Jews by next week or the week after, when we're in Gaza, they're going to be implanted in Gaza and getting updates from Hamas, their media, about the death tolls. And the world is going to be made by your media to sympathize about the poor Palestinians. What we have here is going to be a clash of civilization, because what Hamas has done has been so gruesome that Israel has said to the United States and to your President Biden that what we have a situation here is Israel is surrounded not just by Hamas in Gaza. We're surrounded by Hezbollah in Lebanon and in Syria, both aimed and funded by Iran, the Islamic Republic of Iran. So what we have here is a coordinated war by the Islamic world against the Jewish state. These people, our people, have been killed because they are Jews. Now, we had the Holocaust. This reminds me of what we've had repeatedly in our history before, and that is the pogroms. The pogroms of Europe and in Arab countries where Jew haters, whether they were Europeans or Arabs, simply took a vengeance against the Jewish population by going into their towns and villages and homes, raping the women, killing the men, and taking the property. We never suspected in our lives as Jewish people that a pogrom of this size and this death toll and this ongoing crisis we have, where we reckon we don't know because people are missing. We don't know the numbers yet. Could be 200 or more Jews have been taken captive. But we never imagined that ever in the space country of Israel that a pogrom would have happened this week. This has scarred us so much that we are telling the world, I'm telling you, Amy, and your followers over there, and I know a lot of them are so supportive of Israel, that we are really now in a fight of good against evil. You're either on our side or you're on their side. What I'm afraid of is you're going to get, in the next week or so, the media from the West, including your media, implanting themselves with Hamas in Gaza, getting the toll figures, the death figures, and the exaggerated injury figures, for instance, from Hamas, and projecting this in order to express a sympathy for Israel, to the extent that they will be trying to get Israel dragged to the International Criminal Court on war crimes charges. What we have had here is clear war crime charges, human rights crimes, the most egregious, unbelievable crimes you can ever imagine. And yet nobody is calling that to go to the United States, not to take Palestine or the Palestinian Authority to the International Criminal Court. Now, they will claim perhaps that it's Hamas, it's not the Palestinian Authority, and these people rule over Gaza, and it's not the fault of the Palestinian Authority. I'm here to tell you, Amy, that in fact, the Hamas received money. Money is also given by the United States administration to the Palestinian Authority for various forms. And the Palestinian authorities have what we call the pay-to-slay scheme, which if any terrorist comes into Israel to commit terrorism and kills Jews, they get rewarded for the amount or the number of Jews that they kill. My news to you today is the Palestinian Authority pay this reward to slave payment to Hamas and Islamic Jihad terrorists as well, who have just killed beyond 2,000 Jews. Can you imagine the payments? And the United States administration, directly or indirectly, are paying that money to the Palestinian Authority, which gets filtered to Hamas because of the obligation. Don't forget that the Palestinian Authority consider the Arabs in the Gaza Strip as Palestinians, so they're obligated to do this, despite the fact that Hamas is their biggest enemy, political enemy. Because if you take the recent polls, not put out by Israel, but put out by Palestinian human rights organizations, as of before this event, 56% of the Palestinians living in the Palestinian Authority, if they had an election today, would vote for Hamas. That is a majority. Yeah. This is at a time where your administration and others are demanding, well, you can't expect peace until you withdraw from territory. Amy, we withdrew completely from the Gaza Strip. We took out 9,000 Jews who had built a luxury area over there of agriculture and industry, and we handed over to the Palestinians. So we're not occupying Gaza. We're not occupying much of the area controlled by the Palestinian Authority as well. So let's stop this nonsense about illegal Israeli occupation is what's driving them. We've not been in Gaza for 2 decades. And
this isn't about, from the current leadership of the Palestinians, whether it's the PA or the terrorist organization Hamas, they are not interested in a two-state solution. They are not interested in two nations living side by side. They are very clear. They are very clear and have been for decades that Israel should not exist at all and no Jew should be in the land. So anybody who thinks that this is a bubbling over of freedom fighters, radicals, thinking it's kind of like the American Revolution when Americans, colonials who were seeking independence and freedom from a tyrannical king, it's nothing. It's not an equivalent. It's not. It's just not. There's zero interest for peace and coexistence from the current leaderships. And unfortunately, they've brainwashed wide vast of their population. Yes, Palestinian people are suffering. Regular, everyday Palestinian people, women, children are suffering, but the suffering is not because of Israel. Is Israel perfect? Well, no, nobody is. But they are certainly moral, and they certainly attempt to have the work with the best morality with situations at hand. So our audience needs to understand this isn't about right or left or politics. This is, as you said, Barry, this is good versus evil. And this is right versus wrong. It is beyond politics. It is about, like you said, a clash of civilizations. And it is one side that does want peace and coexistence, the Israelis, And it's another side that will not accept it under any terms unless Israel and all the Jews have disappeared. And we are seeing the same activities that we saw in Europe between 1939 and 1945. And now we're watching the world sympathize with those atrocities. And that's a danger that we cannot allow to have happen. Barry, what can you add to the fact that our media and our colleges and our politicians, a few of them anyway, are just so bent on siding with evil and giving evil a place at the table? What do we do to combat that?
I want to make 2 points. One is really, again, addressing the people who are watching this. And by the way, if your people want to get more involved and personally involved, you go to my Facebook page. I'm also on Telegram, of course, with the View from Israel. Mm-hmm. Make yourself known. And if you need more have personal questions, ask them there. And I will be in contact with you. As I said, I'm working about 20 hours a day these days because people around the world are curious, and that it's important.
And they want true information about you.
I want to give you and your followers one example of something that I spoke about. Then I want to bring it really more relevantly round to our example is the Christian example in the Middle East. First of all, when the media come after us in a couple of weeks' time, maybe less, about saying, what are you doing in Gaza? What about the people you're killing? I want to make, again, a comparison. After 9/11, when America went after Al-Qaeda and you went into Afghanistan to get Al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden, everybody applauded you. I don't know, perhaps you can tell me, how many years America was in Afghanistan?
20. Right?
Did the media implant themselves with the Taliban and Al-Qaeda remarking or commenting or filming the atrocities of the American soldiers and asking the Taliban and Al-Qaeda for what their casualty rate are and putting it out in order to put America in a bad light?
Not on the general. No. I mean, there were definitely people with that perspective, but it wasn't picked up by the mainstream.
So why should they do that to Israel if we're going to be in Gaza for maybe 2-3 weeks, 4 weeks, maybe a month, mm-hmm. maybe a month and a half, where we're risking the lives of our sons and brothers in Gaza in order to eradicate this evil that is Hamas? We're not touching civilians. We've advised the civilians to leave, mm-hmm. and we're doing things to coax them to leave without harming them, to get out of harm's way. But we're going to be condemned for it. It seems to me that after a few days of having, it seems to us that crocodile tears for dead Jews, they're now prepared to start saying, this is the real face of the Jews, when we're actually getting rid of a pure evil. And what I said about Afghanistan really applies in Syria. You're in Syria because you had problems over there as well, and you're still in Syria today. I don't think the media in the world, or even in America, is in Syria reporting back how many poor Syrians have been killed by American troops in Syria. Right. It certainly also didn't happen in Iraq, where you invaded Iraq, quite rightly, to get rid of the Saddam Hussein regime. You did Saddam Hussein regime. You did Osama bin Laden in Afghanistan because that was the face of evil. And people in the free world really applauded your courage and commitment to rid that part of the world of evil. Whether it succeeded or not, I don't know. This is precisely what we're doing over here. So when I implore the people watching us right now, when you start getting this in the media, please reply to your media editors and say, play by the same game you did when American troops risked their lives to try and rescue people or to get rid of evil in Afghanistan and Iraq and in Syria. This is exactly what is going on today. And I think your audience, by the way, would appreciate this. because you and I have done programs before, and I have been active in highlighting the persecution of Christians in the Middle East and in Africa that is also not heard in your media over there.
Right.
How many Christians have been slaughtered in Iraq? Have your media covered that?
Not well.
How have they covered in Nigeria, the Christians in Nigeria and other places in Africa? Not at all.
Not at all.
So we're going to be in the same situation that the Christians have been in, both in the Middle East and Africa. And it's about time we have to change the paradigm here into something and tell the media and tell your political people in Washington, or if even on the campuses, to get real and cut out this false narrative. You know, what we've been seeing as well, and I've been reporting on, believe it or not, within 2 days from Saturday, already on Sunday and Monday, there were huge demonstrations in places like Sydney and Australia, and in Britain, in London, of
New York City,
thousands of Muslims with signs saying, dare I say it, because it's on my Facebook page, I suppose, F the Jews, gas the Jews, Allah Akbar. I don't know if I said it on your show, but I predicted it when I'm talking to people in Europe about, they're asking me what happens in Europe when crimes and things are happening in places like Sweden and Italy and Britain and other places. Why is this? I said, because you adopted an open border policy and you allowed yourself to be invaded by people from the Middle East, and your socialist and left-wing politicians built a career by trying to persuade Swedes and Italians and Brits that this is going to be wonderful. This is multiculturalism. I remember going back even 10 years, and I was doing it a year or two ago, saying, what you don't understand in Europe, that people don't leave the Middle East for Stockholm in Sweden, for instance. They bring the Middle East with them. So what you're seeing in the streets, and I think you had this in New York as well.
Yep.
New York was taken over. These people have not suddenly become liberal, progressive Democrats, you know, talking about human rights for the poor Palestinians. They are echoing the bloodlust of the Hamas, ISIS, Palestinian terrorists. That's the name of the game.
Yeah.
They were coming out applauding the slaughter of Jewish children, the raping of Jewish girls, and taking the hostages. They thought that is an amazing victory. Now, I'll give you one last reason why we have to win this war in Gaza. Because right now, we are facing the real danger of an annihilation of Israel. I am not exaggerating there. This is being said in strategic and military circles. We are facing an annihilation, not only from Gaza, but from Hezbollah in Lebanon, and also from Iran and from Hezbollah over our eastern border in Syria. Now, those fronts have begun, as I'm speaking to you, are just heating up right now. Nasrallah is deciding, he is the head of Hezbollah, he virtually rules Lebanon, is deciding whether to get into the fight, and is already sending over rockets and mortars. Also, he has troops, highly trained troops, trained by the Iranians in Syria, and have fought for Assad in Syria to kill, among other people, Christian opposition to Assad in Syria. And they are gathering on the Golan Heights, on the Syrian side of the Golan Heights. So it could well be within a week when we start taking moves into Gaza, we're already taking out targets by air, that these people might come in, and by next week or week after, you may be interviewing me about Israel in a total war on three fronts: the north, the south, and the east. Right. And so we are. The only thing I can describe it as, Amy, is this: that we are in the front line alone in the clash of civilization. Mm-hmm. We see ourselves right now as fighting evil. We think of ourselves as the good part of the world, the moral side of the world, fighting an awful evil. And if we lose this fight, really, literally, God help you.
Well, and if you lose the fight, then actual everybody in the Middle East loses. All of the Palestinians and the Arabs, the everyday people, the moms and dads, the children who just want to live. No good thing comes out of the current opposition to the state of Israel. There is no legitimate nation building infrastructure that wants to have a robust and vital Palestinian or Arab community that is producing and living well in prosperity for those people. It is just a power struggle of evil. And that's what our folks need to understand, and Americans need to understand. You can say how much you want Palestinians to have their own state and have their own freedom. There is nobody working in good faith on that behalf right now. It is just an evil, corrupt leadership whose goal is just to control and to annihilate Israel and annihilate Jews. And it is just a cancer. And those Palestinian Arab people in the lands, nothing good will come for them either. And that is why we have to hold our media accountable. And it is important that every American, every North American, every European don't allow a biased media to just get away with the narrative, and your university professors and organizations, and God forbid your pulpits do not stand for anything out of the pulpits that doesn't recognize this for what it is, which is good versus evil, a clash of civilizations. It is not about political right or left, or we're way beyond that. And Barry, if you have any thoughts to share about just your own friends, your neighbors, family members, are they serving? Were any of them at that music event that was horrifically attacked? I mean, just personal.
A close personal thing is that it could well be that my family may be personally invested in this, because my grandson is in the IDF. And he is being moved to the south, which is ominous. But the other thing I want to raise is that people may have known that up till fairly recently, Israel was in sort of conflict with itself. We had a political impasse between the people on the left and Bibi and his government on the right, protests or whatever. I do want to tell you that this thing was so shocking that from Saturday onwards, the whole country is so united. The officers who said they were going to, the commanders who said they were, unless Bibi changes his policies, we're telling our pilots and our soldiers in the special units not to serve, not to take their reserve duty. I want to tell you, there is a call up right now. 300,000, which is 100% of the country, have signed up. Nobody. The country had, what these Palestinian ISIS animals have done, has done more to unite this country than anybody. But basically is because people were so shocked. People knew people. The other thing I do want to tell you that is heartbreaking is that we keep getting stories of families, of wives who are crying on television for any information of where their loved ones are.
Right.
There are hundreds of Israelis who are missing. Sons, daughters, husbands, wives, grandparents, and people are pleading, please, if anybody knows where so-and-so is, let us know. The uncertainty is horrible. But again, I come back and I want to make it personal for your viewers. Among the kills have been Americans. Among the hostages have been Americans. Mm-hmm. I think it's time also for your President Biden and maybe the Pentagon, maybe the Defense Department to step up. Unfortunately, I saw President Biden on television saying he had our backs. And yes, he sent an aircraft carrier, which is parked right outside of Lebanon as a warning to Hezbollah not to get involved. We had a plane arrive this morning with a lot of military equipment, but this is for our Iron Dome. This is our defense system. Mm-hmm. But basically, I think what we'll be asking, or maybe have been asking, I'm not privy to this, is more offensive weapons, because if we have to go into Gaza, we need to take on thousands of Hamas and Islamic Jihad terrorists. I don't know if he's going to do that. I think one of the problems he did in Ukraine is that they were asked early in the game to give Ukraine offensive weapons, and he didn't. He gave them defensive weapons. That's why you still have this war dragging on today. Sometimes, policy decisions are wrong. Right. If you want to win a war, win a war. It seems to us that America have told Ukraine, we'll keep on fighting to a draw. We're not going to give you the weapons to make you win. And it seems that he's doing this to Israel. I don't want to do any injustice to your president, but some Israeli that I met this morning said, I heard Biden, what do you think? And I said, okay, fine. So what do you think? He told me, he says, I understand English. He said, we have your back. This is an Israeli who was telling me in Hebrew. He said, we have your back. He said, we don't want a president has our back. We want a president standing shoulder to shoulder with us.
Right.
So, and I said, it made me think. I went away and I thought, Amy, whatever I just told you is in fact, Israel is alone now at the front, alone, fighting for the good part of the world against the evil in this new clash of civilization. God help us all if we lose.
Barry, I just want to thank you for your time and your insights, and we will have you on again so you can explain how things are unfolding and you can analyze policy decisions that we will see in the coming weeks. And I want to let you know that all of us are praying for Israel. We're praying for our leaders to do the right thing. We are also communicating with our leaders, emails, faxes, phone calls. We have an election coming up in a couple weeks. So we on the ground here are doing everything we can to support Israelis in their fight for good against evil. And our prayers are always out in front ahead of all of our actions. So Barry, thank you. And please, we will have you on again. I will share your Facebook page with our audience so that they can log in and follow you in real time.
Thank you. Thank you for your blessings and thanks for your help. I hope you will help more than blessing, but actually take action and really take the facts and that information, how horrible it will be, to your own political leaders, both
exactly,
local and Washington, and to the media.
Yeah,
and make these points to them. It would help us enormously.
We are going to do that to the best of our ability. And we have a wide network that are willing to roll their sleeves up and do whatever they can. And they're asking, what can we do? So Barry, thank you for sharing those insights with us.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Amy. And bless you for your actions and your initiatives as well. I think one helps the other, but I bless you for what you're doing.
Thank you. Shavua Tov, Barry, as best as possible.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.